On the mic with us today is Cait Alexander, a Canadian-born advocate, artist, and visionary founder of End Violence Everywhere, EVE. Cait survived a near-fatal experience of intimate partner violence.
You know, we grow up, especially as young girls and women, and we think we're taught in Canada that the bad guy goes to jail. And we're taught that it's a very safe place. We're taught that, people aren't allowed to do these things and there will be, punishment and there will be justice. And that's just not true. Canada is also horrifyingly unjust. We don't have a justice system. There's 56% of cases in Ontario our state are thrown out. And so that perpetuates and allows abusers to live freely amongst us, and they do. And that's why we've seen increases of all of these, all different types of crimes, from human trafficking to intimate partner violence to sexual assault. Canada's in a rough spot right now, and it needs amendments quickly because we're losing people needlessly.
In our conversation, we went beyond her advocacy work. We talked about her story and her personal commitment to transforming pain into purpose, providing a platform for survivors. This is Rise and Thrive with Ms. Monday. I'm your host, a photographer, filmmaker, and artist devoted to telling stories of brave souls who are standing up, speaking truth, and building something better. My podcast is independently created and powered by passion. Just my soul connecting with your soul. If something here moves you on the show, I'd be honored if you'd like, subscribe, and share it. Your support fuels this movement, and it means more than you know. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Your story is both horrific and empowering. It's a story that almost ended your life. How could something that seems so right and so wrong? Can you tell us your story?
I was nearly murdered by my ex-partner in 2021 after a 7-month relationship, which started off as very, everything I could have dreamed of. I mean, it was COVID. Everyone was going through really uncomfortable experiences. No one was immune to what was going on. I had found someone to really fully embrace life with in all capacities. He appeared as the father of the year. He didn't drink. He didn't use drugs. He was successful. Seemed very kind and, protective and just all of those qualities that one could want in a partner. It escalated, the violence and the abuse escalated so quickly that from the first time that there was any physical violence to July 31st, 2021, when my life was nearly taken, that it was about a 6-week period. So this is someone who is very, very, very dangerous. To put it very, very bluntly, he's very dangerous. And he's free without consequence. And so what happened in Canada is he nearly took my life, nearly beat me to death. It's incredibly graphic. It's incredibly, incredibly painful to talk about. He was charged 8 times for his offenses towards me, and all 8 charges in the Canadian, I don't call it the justice system, the Canadian injustice system, were stayed. And meaning that I've never had a criminal trial for my attempted murder. And this not only was psychologically very damaging to me because, we grow up, especially as young girls and women, and we think we're taught in Canada that the bad guy goes to jail. And we're taught that it's a very safe place. We're taught that, people aren't allowed to do these things and there will be, punishment and there will be justice. And that's just not true. Canada is a very lovely country. It has amazing people, and it is also horrifyingly unjust. We don't have a justice system. There's 56% of cases in Ontario our state are thrown out. And so that perpetuates and allows abusers to live freely amongst us, and they do, and that's why we've seen increases of all of these, all different types of crimes, from human trafficking to auto theft to intimate partner violence to sexual assault. And I don't even like to lump auto theft in with human on human violence. Like those aren't even fair things to compare, to put in the same sentence. But Canada's in a rough spot right now, and it needs amendments quickly because we're losing people needlessly.
Oh, it's so sad. You've described your survival as a miracle. How did you find the strength after what you went through, Cait, not only to survive, but to transform this pain into a mission to help others?
I didn't find anything. Like,
Okay.
wasn't anything to be found. It
Mm,
just is. I think there's so much anger. I
mm,
think there's so much that's so obvious in my situation, and anger for myself, anger for my family, anger for the people that have to live amongst my ex and Lee's side, anger for the community, and anger for women, anger for other survivors, anger at him, but anger at the system, anger at the politicians who write policy that perpetuates this and stick their head in the sand every time someone says that it's not working. I think it wasn't really so much strength, but the will to live in the actual instance. There's such a desperate need to our system. There's so many things that are so blatantly, obviously wrong with it. I'm not asking, I'm not arguing or debating things. It can even be really debated. I think 99% of people would say, yeah, people who try to kill other people should be incarcerated. That's
mm,
I don't think there's a lot of, I
mm,
don't think I'm saying anything that people don't want, or that
mm.
that is contestable. I feel the strength, sure, but I feel like sometimes I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah.
I get so much strength from the community. I get so much strength from talking to people and being able to share openly. I think it would be a really different world if I shared my story and then people, regardless of the evidence and the photos and the videos, didn't believe me. And regardless of all this happening, that people didn't care. And that's what a lot of survivors go through. Well, don't care, or they don't believe them. And so I'm actually very fortunate to have the strengths within the community to talk about this and deal with it, hopefully effectively.
You described that your testimony before the House of Commons, you spoke about the justice system failing you, and you spoke about it now as well. Can you describe the emotional impact of having your abuser face no real consequences? Like, it just must, like, what the fuck? Right? Yeah.
The fact that
Yeah.
pretty much what's been going on in my head since December 16th, 2022.
Yeah.
The hardest thing, because it denies your reality. It's being gaslit by the system that's supposed to protect you. It's another form of abuse. It doubles down on the abuse that already exists. It doubles the experience of having a crown attorney, Corey Langdon, who was one of my crown attorneys, who said, I believe you. I know this happened to you. It's a public safety matter. We don't have time for this. The denial of my fundamental human rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada were denied by the very system that is actually those charter elements were constructed on, and the very system that is supposed to be highly engaged with honoring and respecting and adhering to charter rights. And the feeling, it could make anyone crazy. The entire last 4 years has just been years of abuse, not just by him, but by the system itself. And people say that the system's re-traumatizing. Sure, I try to stay away from the catchphrasy lingo stuff because it gets so waters down the actual tone of what this is the system is abusive. And
Mm.
for the majority, particularly women dealing with sexual assault, intimate partner violence, and human trafficking, it is not re-traumat, it is an abusive system. So therefore it is re-traumatizing. And so I think we have to call it what it is. But yeah, it's been really hard.
So you've created End Violence Everywhere, and you are instrumental in supporting survivors. And can you share a story where your work now has made a tangible difference in someone else's life?
There's so many people that so deservingly have been, I hope, able to find some peace. And I only say this because they've told me this. There's without breaking anyone's anonymity and keeping the details very, very
Mhm.
high level. There were, I mean, from instances of people saying that the eye movement deprocessing and retraumat. Oh my gosh. EMDR. I say this word every single day. I always butcher the acronym. It's brutal. Eye movement deprocessing and resensitization. EMDR. One of the best therapies I think for, it saved my life. It's a therapy that literally gave me back all of my
Mm.
mental capacities and effectively removed PTSD. I did it yesterday. So we
Mhm.
have a EMDR. We provide EMDR therapy, and some of the survivors say they're completely okay after experiencing sexual assault, and we don't charge the survivors for it. So it's completely accessible to everyone if you have an internet connection. There was one instance where she came up to me with tears in her eyes and she said, if I didn't have Eve, I would have had nowhere to go that night. I know that that's actually reality because I've been there
Mm.
where, and this poor woman had been financially abused, and, she had from the outside had a very good life, but her ex and her abuser had been financially restraining her so much that she couldn't even get a hotel room. And that's it. I mean, there's countless fathers who have lost their daughters have come forward and just said, we don't know where else to go. There's
Mm.
nowhere else to go that deals with these issues so authentically. I mean, and that's not me helping. That's the community giving us and providing us with resources and support and helping me just facilitate these things, right? So, I mean, I've obviously helped fund everything myself, but without the community power behind all of this, we can't operate.
Mm.
So those are 3 instances, but every day we are genuinely making a real difference in people's lives. And I wanted to personalize. There are a lot of amazing nonprofits and charities that do really amazing work, but I really wanted to ensure that this didn't feel like another clinical place where people had to go and get a checklist of and feel like they're under some microscope. Dehumanizing, that's the last thing survivors need. They need a person, and we provide them with a friend in a dark times, kind of what we've come to uh, deduce it as. And I just, it's an honor to do it. And these stories they rip you apart. And
Of
we get
course.
people every single day.
Oh my
Every day.
God.
One last night at 10:30 PST, 1:30 in the morning EST, every single day. It's been over 80. I think we're probably closer to 100 now in the last couple weeks. People in 5 months that have come through seeking services, and it's working. So
Mm.
I'm very happy for that.
You said that you provide coaching. Can you elaborate a little bit on what that service is?
So, I mean, I think coaching would probably refer to us assisting with court matters. Court is a big, scary monster, cannot be denied. It is not friendly to anyone. It's a horrible process. It is so archaic and dismissive. It's ugly. We help survivors who are engaged in that process if they need it to, do a sort of mock trial or prepare them for what defense could say. Because defense attorney, as we're seeing in the NHL trial, defense can be ugly, and they're allowed to be ugly. It's it's quite horrifying, not only to have to go through that experience, but then be on a stand and have your life ripped apart and questioned for your sanity and your, this idyllic, this idea of a perfect victim where you can't cry too much, but if you don't cry enough, it might not have happened. If you have all of your words completely articulate, then obviously you're just reading from a textbook. If you're all over the place, then you're mentally ill. Like, you can't win as a victim. It's pretty terrifying.
Mm.
So we try to prepare survivors for that experience. And what really happens too is if they engage with EMDR and the therapies, their nervous system is actually more regulated, and they're able to then face trial. We sit in the courtroom. I mean, victim services that you're given if you engage the criminal process, they don't sit in the courtroom with you. They're not allowed to. So a lot of these survivors don't want to tell their families or don't have any family, or so we are that friend that comes and sits there and sits through court with them to get them to help make this better for them and make the experience as tolerable as possible. And we help in training us. We have amazing lawyers that we work with: Catherine Marshall, Robert Rotenberg. There's tons of great lawyers that we have found, but there's a lot of lawyers that are not great, and they bully the survivors who are already in the worst places in their lives, or a lot of the time survivors have not been heard so much, so they kind of express so much, email after message after message, and it becomes very overwhelming. And their job is not to be the therapist. So we train and help survivors learn how to speak to lawyers and learn how to speak to these people so that they can have the best result. The ultimate goal is justice, but survivors who have not engaged in the system do not often know how to get to that get to that place. Most people don't. If you're not a criminal, why would you know how the criminal system works? Makes complete sense. Where we do whatever the survivor needs, wherever we feel like we can be of service and benefit the survivor, we do it.
It's great to know that you offer those services. Now, you also have, I read something called Letters for Men. It's a campaign that invites men to express solidarity with survivors. What inspired you to do this initiative, and how has the response been so far with this?
I was inspired actually from Cassie's husband. He wrote a letter, and I said, "Oh, that's a really, if we got men from the community to share their experiences, to acknowledge how survivors, what they've been through, to apologize if necessary." So I think what has happened, and everything feels so divisive right now, whether that's politics, whether that's ideology, whether is what the best decision is. I think because we've given everyone a soapbox, and now we can create these little sub camps of all of these things, which is great for freedom of speech from that perspective, but it also can be it can really be it can put further divides between people. And I didn't want to create an organization that didn't invite men to the table, that didn't give them a place in ending these issues. Because from what I've seen, and I appreciate the feminist movement, and I appreciate what that has done for us so that we can get to a place where we are treated equally or treated fairly or treated respectfully. And we're not fully there yet. But I also realize that if we have to understand men as well, and we have to understand that if we push them so far away and hate them so much and tell them how horrible they are and tell the good ones that all men are bad and they are all terrible and they all suck and they're all stupid and they're all the dumb, that we're doing ourselves a major disservice. And that notion of wanting to be in complete control and complete power is kind of where becoming a man is kind of the opposite of what we want if we're trying to dissolve the patriarchy. So it kind of seems counterintuitive to me, right? I really stay away from all of that because I don't think that we're not going to get rid of men. So that's it. Like, unless you really want to go out and slay 50% of the population, I don't want that either. I think we've done a really bad job of listening to each other. And yes, men included in that. But now it's kind of flipped the script where women are like, nope, this is how it is and this is what it is. And I'm like, we're actually doing the same things that we've asked them not to do to us. And so I feel like we have to meet in the middle. And we have to bring men into the conversation and ending violence because men are committing these offenses. So how do we invite good men into this world to say, hey, can you help us with this? Because they actually will have a better shot of getting other men to knock it off. Or they can talk to their bros and get them, they can change this better than we can. And so we have to inspire and we have to unify because we're not going to live without the other gender. That's not possible. So let's figure out how to work together in a way that's healthy and constructive and honors the qualities of men, honors the qualities of women, honors who they genuinely are. And let them that's where the Letters from Men campaign started, was, like, give them a voice in this and show women that there are good men out there, because that's healing. That's very healing.
Sure. I love men, you know. There's a lot of good men too. And so I love that you're doing that because it is true. We're not going to get rid of them. And we
Like,
kind of need them in some ways. We do need them.
yes,
And
we do need that.
and we do love them. Like I have a loving fiance and I'm so lucky to have him, you know? So I know there is incredible men out there, but at the same time, it's wonderful that that you're offering everything that you're doing. So looking ahead, what changes do you hope to see in the justice system to better support survivors? I mean, the obvious, but what do you hope?
We have a 5-page document that's been circulated through Parliament and through provincial levels of government as well, because it is so extensive. I don't think the majority of Canadians realize how egregious it is, how backwards it is, how they really. We have a Canadian, so there's the criminal code, which is written by the federal government, which then is applied by the provincial government. So we have these two systems. So we all have relatively the same laws across Canada, and then the provinces have to implement them and do so within their jurisdiction and hire judges and court staff and manage the courts effectively or ineffectively, depending on how you look at it. But if we start at the top with elements of the criminal code, the bail issue that we're facing in Canada, where we catch and release criminals, and we are seeing this every day. I mean, there was a man who allegedly, but he killed his, I think she was about 30 years old, in Alberta in September. He was let out on bail for $2,500. So what's occurring in Canada, my situation, I was nearly killed. The tactical SWAT team was at the house, blood all over it was a crime scene. My ex was let out on bail for like $500 the next day. The majority of criminals who commit crimes are let out the next day. The majority. We have human trafficking survivors or human trafficking offenders who don't even bother hiding what they're doing anymore, because it's easier to get booked, get out, pay the bail, and get out the next day than it is to have to try to hide from the police. And they've told the police officers this, because police officers, my friends, and they said that, one of them had a offender in the back of the car, and he just said, like, why you guys don't do anything anymore? Like, what you're doing is in broad daylight out in the open, as if you're just, getting a Tim Hortons coffee. And he said, yeah, well, it's just easier to get released than it is to bother hiding from you guys anymore. And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because criminals, obviously, they're not all stupid. They're stupid in what they do, but a lot of them are very intelligent, and they know how to game the system. And when the system says, oh, it's okay, just don't do that again, when they've committed the most heinous acts and taken people's lives or sold children or killed people or sexually abused, on and on and on and on. And they're free, no consequences, or free awaiting trial in their home. And what do? They go and they continue what they were doing before they went to jail for a night. And that's why I left the country. I couldn't live safely with my ex anymore free. I can't live safely in Canada. I will never move back, because he will have a lot easier of a time trying to finish what he started with me.
Oh my God.
And not to be all doom and gloom, but it's reality. And you can see it on headlines. I met with Shadow Minister Larry Brock, Shadow Minister for Justice Larry Brock on the federal level, and we really need Sean Fraser and the Public Safety Minister to get on board with solving these problems. But I'm very, very fearful that it's going to be a rinse and repeat of the Trudeau government. Very, very fearful that they are not going to listen, and more women and children and people are going to be needlessly slain, because I know 15 women that I can name off the top of my head who had a situation with a dangerous offender, and then he was let out on bail and he went and finished what he started months later. Had that offender be in custody awaiting trial, that woman would have been alive. So that's why I left. My ex started stalking me. No, I'm not staying here. I know what he's capable of. What's to
Oh
say he doesn't have a bad day, come and find me, and that's the end of it.
my goodness. How did you meet this ex?
It was lockdown 2020, or the last night before lockdown, the Last Supper, going open, close, all that that whole parade that we were doing. I was in Yorkville at Castamodo with a girlfriend for dinner, and then met mutual friends, and then there's this house party going on. Everyone's like, okay, fine, the last time before we ever see humans again for the rest of winter or whatever. And it was his house. And I went up to Leaside and, the adults were partying and I saw his really cute mini golden doodle and took him for a walk. And, it was a snowy November night and he took a liking to me. He still lives in the same house,
Wow.
And he took a liking to me, got my number off someone and started pursuing me. I wasn't really interested, whatever. And then in January, it's like, all right, well, it's January, it's COVID, it's lockdown. I might as well meet one human. Like there were so many
Mhm,
external factors in that
mhm.
occurring, but he presented himself as a stand-up gentleman, the absolute antithesis.
I'm so sorry. Looking ahead, well, finally, I guess what I've prepared for today, we could always talk about more things too here, but Cait, what message would you like to send to survivors today? Anyone who might be listening, especially someone who might feel alone or unheard.
I don't want you to feel alone because you can always reach out. I'm super easy to find on social media, Cait.Alexander, Cait.Alexander. It's all very googly-ooglyable, so reach out. Even if you just have a simple question or you're in a situation that you're not sure about, endviolenceeverywhere.org or Eve_initiative on socials. Uh, we're here for you. We're here to fix it. He could not successfully complete what he wanted to complete on July 31st, 2021. I am alive for a reason. Resolving these issues is the hill I die on, and that is a matter of rallying Parliament, which we do. This is a matter of rallying the provincial levels of government. We have major projects. We want to create a survivor trauma center to heal people quickly. We can heal people in a week. We can resolve traumas. We can get people out of a hypervigilant state, out of a dysregulated state, and bring them back to a calm and bring them back to themselves or a version of themselves that they like. And center for that. We want to build modular homes for survivors so that they have somewhere to go. So we're not putting people up in hotels for a night or two, which is not it's a very short-term solution. We want to have a peer advocate in every single hospital. An amazing ER head, Dr. Ann Aspler. And she and the organization have partnered to increase reporting rates through the ER system because 95%, so it's 5 out of every 100 survivors that come through the hospital system actually report for intimate partner violence or sexual assault. We're missing 95% of the individuals that come through. This has a net benefit of providing survivors with care after they leave the hospital. This will reduce recidivism rates of entering the hospital because most of the times if you don't get any treatment, you're likely to end up back in that system. 44% of women who were murdered by their ex-partners enter the hospital within 2 years of their murder date. So almost 50%, and I'm assuming it's probably closer to 50 or 60%. So what are we doing in these systems that already exist that we could be doing a lot better and saving lives? And so that's one of our main objectives. And it's been very well received by ministers of health in both Saskatchewan and Ontario. And we're working steadfastly every single day to amend these issues and raise awareness or, whatever the terms are, but really genuinely actionably do something about this. Because we can talk about this all day. I can raise $1 billion tomorrow. If we don't change the laws and we don't rebuild the system, there's no point in any of it. It doesn't make That's not going to help. We're just going to keep running on the same hamster wheel that we're on. So, yeah, that's what we've been doing. And it's so grateful for the community support. We have an event in Calgary on September 24th. We have an event here in LA on October 1st, and we'll be doing another event in Toronto in December. And we're just so grateful for the community. We're looking for community partnerships, all different ideas. We respond to everyone. That's one of our mandates is communicate with people. You never know where, even coming and talking to you. Like we were at one of our mutual friends' amazing opening of her business, and now here we are.
Yeah.
Come talk to us. Come spend time with us. Come meet with us. Very, very grateful for all of the love and all of the support.
In an ideal world, if you were able to change, what would that be? What would happen in the ideal world?
If a survivor had a situation, is
Yeah.
that yeah, for okay.
Yeah, if a survivor had a situation, what would be the ideal system to you? Like, what would you like to see as the change?
Situation happens. I'd like to get ahead of the curve and actually start treating young men with EMDR in the juvenile system so we can regulate their nervous systems as a preventative measure. Because I think there's an opportunity there to not even have situations occur anymore or reduce the number of situations. But if we are where we are at right now, we have a situation occur. Their survivor, let's say they need to go to the hospital. They go to the hospital. They're connected with an Eve advocate, an Eve worker. They are released from the hospital. The abuser is held in custody. Let's say he did something, he drew blood, he did something egregious enough. He's held in custody. But what the system should actually be doing is holding him in custody, making sure that she has wraparound services, contact with the Crown Attorney, contact with the police, has an advocate, we can provide that. She immediately starts, let's say she needs to go to the survivor treatment center. She gets taken to the survivor treatment center, starts therapy immediately, trauma informed nervous regulation therapy. And she stays there for a week and she's basically at a spa and she's basically being treated for all the things that went on, the abuse, the psychological elements, the physical elements, and she starts healing. Let's say he's in custody. Let's say he's up on 5 charges. We expeditiously get a trial date set. There's the process of discovery and all the, the natural things that have to go through. He has a lawyer. Let's say it's mandatory that within 60 days, these people need to be in court resolving this issue. People can handle things for 2 months. They can't handle things for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It drains you and you cannot properly and fully heal until you have disengaged from your abuser and disengaged from the system. You can't do it. I'm in civil court with my ex. It's bringing up all different types of things. And I have access to the best therapies in the world, the best therapists. And it still brings up stuff for me because it forces you to constantly negotiate with someone who tried to take your life. That is very, very, that's not good for anybody. It's all, back to that situation. So we go to trial. The survivor is supported, respected. The defense counsel is not allowed to subpoena hospital records or personal journals because that's legal in Canada. There's a section called 278. Defense can, if you took medication during COVID or went to therapy when you were 14 years old or something, the defense counsel can bring that up and say that you're mentally ill. Your entire life, any aspect of your life, you wrote in your journal that you were having a bad day and you were, could hurt him or that could be weaponized against you and say that you're the actual abuser.
Wow.
Your personal life is totally accessible to defense counsel during a criminal trial. It's wrong. It's wrong. So we go through trial, the survivor supported, the evidence is presented, and the individual is found guilty. And then he goes I would like people to go to jail. I don't think we can live in a world where restorative justice is completely, where everyone's singing Kumbaya and doing therapy together. And, there are individuals that need to be incarcerated. It's just a sad reality of the human experience, but it's reality. And if we don't deal with reality, we're going to have problems. So this individual goes to jail and is made and required to engage in trauma-informed therapies as well, and is made to engage in experiences and have resources provided that he will get mental health help as well and try to get to the bottom of that if it is so feasible. So that's the ideal world. And, jail, yes, as a holding cell, as a place to protect the community, but also for the individuals who have had those bad childhoods, who do have drug and addiction problems, are actually getting the proper mental health treatment. And the ones we can rescue and save from their own demise, we can and will. And the ones who can't, then we just hold them. And unfortunately, that's their life experience. And that's just too bad for them. You can't let people who are violent towards others. I mean, that's kindergarten. That's kindergarten play school rules. You push someone on the playground, there's a consequence. Why don't we do that as adults? We don't. That's the scary part, is we're teaching our kids there's consequences for actions, but as soon as they become over 18, currently in Canada, it's a lawless country. You can do it basically whatever you want.
Wow. That's so sad, but it's so good that you are trying to create change, which is wonderful. Now, to end this podcast, is there any last words that you want to say before we log out here?
If you see something, say something. People intervened on my situation in my life, and I didn't call the police. Other people did, and that saved my life. So don't ever be afraid that that's what the police are there for. If you hear something, if you hear your neighbors, something's going on, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and intervene on it. You don't know. You don't really know what you don't know. It's not intimate partner violence and sexual assaults are not private matters. It doesn't happen behind closed doors. There's generally if it's a community issue. It's a public safety issue. And we need everyone to be involved in ending it. And I want everyone to be inspired and feel comfortable doing that.
I know you've moved and you no longer are in Canada. I think you moved to the US, right?
I live in
Yeah.
LA. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, your company is international. It's not just based in Canada. Eve is end violence everywhere, right? Have you seen any differences in the justice system in the US versus like, how does it compare in the US versus Canada?
It's a much more litigious and law and order type of society. I mean, the US has sometimes swung the pendulum so far in the wrong directions. The war on drugs in the 80s, where mass incarceration for super minor infractions like having a bag of weed or something on you. So that I don't agree with. But when it comes to dangerous offenders, the US is much better at dealing, which is a very scary thing to say, because this marketing of Canada is that it's, this utopia where everyone's running around with unicorns and polar bears and drinking maple syrup and hockey and whatever else. And the US is the big scary America where it's big and scary and it's awful and I've only ever been assaulted in Canada. I've lived in 10 different countries in my lifetime, and the only country I've ever been assaulted in is Canada, Toronto specifically. And that is largely due to major legislative issues. And so in the States, I moved down here because I knew that I needed to put the American border between my ex and myself, because he wouldn't have been able to commit those offenses on video, on camera, and been able to walk from all charges. That would not have occurred. I've talked to prosecutors down here, I've talked to judges down here, senators, congresspeople, and I tell them the story and they don't believe me. They don't believe that it was handled this way. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. They're like, what is going on in Canada? And I said, exactly. And so I'm kind of whistleblowing on my own country in a way, it feels like. And it's not to say I don't love Canada, I do, but I'm not safe there. I will never be safe there if he's not incarcerated. I mean, for instance, my peace bond, which is effectively a restraining order, my peace bond they expire every single year. So my peace bond hearing was on March 26, 2024. It expired on March 26, 2025. I have no protections against my ex in Canada at all. Zero. He can come up to me, he can text me, because in Canada, I have to bring all my evidence, appear before a judge, relive the whole story, rehash the whole thing in hopes of maybe getting another year of protection on paper from him. In the US, filled out a form online, paid $35, sent it off in an hour, had a temporary restraining order within 48 hours. The judge wants to see me just to go over some details, but it will very likely be fully granted, no questions asked. And that crime didn't even occur in the US. That's how backwards Canada is. I'm asking for protections wherever I happen to be. I live in California. I'm asking for one from the States so that, at least I have, if he ever comes after me down here, there will be a paper trail of his offenses, but I have to spend $4,000 getting to Toronto and spend time in court and wait around and do all this just to potentially, and I guarantee you what they'll say in Canada. Well, you live in the US, so why are you worried about this anymore? When I can just hear it, because we do not prosecute people in Canada. I mean, look at the situation with the CTV headline, Judge Andrew Tam, and I think it's really important that we say the people who are perpetuating these forms of violence. I think it's really important. Judge Andrew Tam said that this offender who was charged with child pornography charges, he had I think I'm paraphrasing here, but he had a modest amount of child porn, so we should not incarcerate him. What the hell is a modest amount of child porn? I would like to see that judge's hard drive. I would like to, that should spark a federal investigation. That judge said on the record that someone is allowed to go free for modest kiddie porn.
Wow, it's crazy.
That is a level of psycho that I
Yeah.
shame on the country. Shame on the government should let that guy go. He
Oh
should be federally investigated, and he won't be. And that's what's really scary.
because he's a judge. Right?
Because he's a judge. And so what does that teach other offenders? The judge said I could have a modest amount of kiddie porn. What happens to those kids? What happens to what happens to the individuals who are committing these offenses? Modest amount? Okay, now we're at an egregious amount. I guarantee you the next year it'll be an egregious amount. It'll be more children that are damaged. It'll be more families that are ruined because one judge said a modest amount of kiddie porn is permissible.
My
And
God.
that's what pisses me off about Canada.
That's crazy.
Is that we live in Looney Tune land of just be nice to people and they'll be nice back. That's not how this works. And I'm not to be the bearer of bad news, but we need a reality check and we need to play within the rules of what reality is teaching us. And we're so disillusioned by ideology and giving them pats on the hand for assaulting and harming children. And that's the world we live in, and it's dead wrong.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you. 100%.
I really get very furious about those situations, and I laugh when I'm down here. It's I feel safer down in the U.S. I am safer. Nothing has happened to me in 4 years down here. Every time I go back to Canada, something happens, and I'm doing the same things. I'm living the same life. Canada's a major, major problem with criminals, and we just don't want to talk about it because we're so nice, and I think that's really stupid.
Well, Cait, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story is a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. Anyone interested in learning more, please check out the show notes to see how you can connect with Cait. And I encourage you all to visit endviolenceeverywhere.org and learn more about how we can all support survivors and end violence. Remember, you're not alone. We're here for you. And if you know someone who has experienced intimate partner violence or sexual assault, help is available, like you heard today from Cait. Thank you for listening. And together, we are going to make a difference. So thank you. If you enjoyed our interview today, please share and like it. And if you have a unique story of how you are creatively engaging with our world, I can help you share it in a multitude of different ways. Whether it's through photography, film, or being a guest on my podcast, be sure to reach out. My mission is to make you and your brand stand out. Please visit our website, www.riseupandfixit.com. Now, this is Rise and Thrive with Ms. Monday, brought to you by the Rise Up and Fix It podcast.